What's up, everybody? Richard Dolan here for a courageous conversation.
Well, man, today you're right. There's no going back.
How do you feel the weight of that desire?
I have been there for a while.
The story's still being written, and you cut the story short. As they say, I'm playing with house money.
They said, neo-fascist.
You can't imagine, Richard. I've heard everything now.
But I'll tell you what, you ain't never buying your time back. Value your time.
Nothing can humiliate me. I've already done that.
He said, you taught me there was more to life than pain, and that kind of opened the door for thousands and thousands of kids.
Like, you just show up no matter what.
This is an opportunity to kind of delve into yourself and actually pull out what you might have in there.
It forced me to think about life after basketball.
And it's funny because people need to laugh.
You're just passing through, brother.
Once you start a courageous conversation, there ain't ever going back to an ordinary one.
Mark Holmes, we're sitting here having a lovely chat just about, nothing special, nothing grand, just a rock star who so happens to be creative, who just so happens to be a serial entrepreneur. So how are you?
It's better than being a serial killer, I can tell you that.
You're absolutely right.
Or a cereal altogether, because they've also got bad vibes with all that sugar.
So I should have added serial comedian as well.
I don't know.
But how have you been, my friend?
I've been great. I've been busy. I like to fill my days, hours, and thinking with creative ideas. I mean, it's all about that, right? Some people, if they're not happy with what they do, I find that they look for retirement, look for a time where they can have enough money where they don't have to go to the horrible job they hate. But ever since I was a kid, I thought, why not just do something I like and have people pay me for it? I saw this film one time when I was very, very little. It was on the telly. I was left by myself, and I was left by myself a lot when I was a kid. So lots of time to think about things. And it was called Casino Royale. It was a spoof written by, well, I know that David Niven was in it, and Woody Allen, I think, wrote it, and Casino Royale is a book, the first James Bond book, and it was always this one guy or the James Bond character, all surrounded by all these girls, and there was bubbles, and they were all dressed up, and everybody looked so. And I just thought, man, how do I get that? How do I make money out of simply being adored? I mean, honestly, how do you do that?
And how do you spell that, by the way, for those who are watching?
Well, my main talent, as a lot of English kids hope to have, it was football. I mean, I played a lot of football. You have to wake up really early in the morning, and then your summers are screwed because you have to go to school. You know, for the 6 weeks, you only have 6 weeks holidays, so you kind of want to do something other than that. I said, oh well, how do I get that movie? What do I do? Maybe I'll just become a rock star instead. So I guess a couple of years later, I became a rock star, and that worked out quite well,
I'd say.
But it was out of, you see, it's funny, because, you know, most people say, well, I didn't get in rock music for, I need to have my vision, Well, sure, you think about that stuff a little bit later, when you grow up a tiny bit. When you're a teenager, you get involved in music because of the crumpet. You want the girls, right? You know, I thought nothing of the money. I just thought, girls, lots of them, just like in that movie. That's what I want. And that happened, and that wasn't all it cracked up to be. But what I did discover was my just love for creating and music, and so I was drawn to something for maybe not the most pure artistic reasons, but I was drawn to it regardless, and it led me into a life that I really, really. When I make music, and I don't care if no one hears it, the feeling I get is just, it's not only hard to describe, it's almost unimaginable. It's just this, I could be in the worst position in my life, going through some dreadful things, but if I make and I create music out of it, I've just taken myself to another level.
So what does it mean to you to be creative? What does it mean to you to actually tap into that, you know, that second brain, that, you know, that alter genius, to tap into your magic and your meaning?
Magic's interesting. That takes me to a small sidebar. I used to go to concerts when I was a kid, you know, that was magic to me. Once you start playing concerts, the magic sort of dissipates and the realization of talent becomes more ever present. But for me, creating that magic, it happens through necessity. I felt it necessary to be happy at what I do. I didn't want to work for someone and work for that retirement we were talking about. I want to do what I do and be involved in the planet as it's turning. You see, so many people die at 23, 24 and then they're buried around 80 or 90. Because they just stop progressing. The world is turning and they, for some bizarre unexplained reason, they get off and they stick with their friends and they just watch the world turn, and before you know it they're saying, well, those kids, what do they know? It's crap now and all that stuff. But it's because they got off the world. I don't want to get off. I want to be part of it. I want to be an integral part of it all the time. I tell you, I will do what I do until I draw my last breath, because to me retirement is death. And staying vital, staying apart, be a part of the system. I mean, they say they don't have a voice, it's just all the young kids nowadays, but actually you outweigh, in population alone you outweigh the millennials. This is your decision. If you get involved, if you don't get off the planet and decide you want to become part of that revolving planet, and it's exhilarating. People die when they stop. Or like a musician, for instance, not just stopping music, but growing up, or for any artist, growing up is the kiss of death. You don't really need to grow up either. Why can't life be fun? Why can't you just say, wow, this is so exciting to be alive and to be working and to doing stuff I like? Yeah, sure, I understand when people, not everyone's creative. It doesn't, but you can still do things you like. And still, I remember one time when I was very young, we had this landlord, right, the caretaker for the building that I was living in, and he was an older guy, but he was strong, and he was always doing the fix-its, and wasn't the nicest. He wasn't very nice to me because we were like, you know, pink hair and red trousers.
You were rock stars in the making.
Rock stars in the making, yeah. So he thought we were a bit mental, but I had a great respect for him because he did his job with verve. Anyway, he hit the mandatory retirement for whatever job that was, or hit that retirement age. Now he can retire. And a couple of years had passed, and I was just about ready moving out the building. I think he came in to visit someone, and that man had aged probably 50 years within 2 years. He was almost gone. And right then and there, it stuck in my head. I will never, ever make that mistake. I'll never make the mistake of growing up. I will never make this mistake of retiring. I won't call it retiring. I'll simply shift occupations, shift my focus, but I won't retire. I will never retire, and I don't think anybody on the planet Earth should retire. If you hate your job and you want to retire, the moment you do retire, create a job you like. Create a job you love. Do something you love, or something that you grow to love. A small little business that you just say, oh, I love this. I like the fact I've just built my own little place and people are coming. So they're making a very, very modest amount of money every year, but it doesn't matter because it's theirs. they're okay with it. It's theirs. It gives me goosebumps just even to think about how happy that makes people.
So you're a guy that definitely does things the way he wants. You know, you became a rock star because you chose to be one.
Strangely enough, I know it sounds weird, but yeah, kind of.
And no mistaking it, there's the very, not to make this the moment to talk about the accolades that you deserve as Platinum Blonde, the lead singer, the creative genius behind it, the tour de force within it, having 2 number ones, the way it went.
Recent number one. that was the hardest part. That's really pulling a rabbit out of the hat. But yeah, we had like just such
a run.
Yeah, it was a massive run, but you also need to take time away, right? I moved to California for a bit before I moved back to England, and I just wanted to get out of the business because I thought the business was a bit dodgy. And in the 80s and 90s, the business was really, really dodgy. I mean, it wasn't a nice place to be for creative people. I think that's why grunge really made such a big impact, because these kids didn't want to be part of that world and this part of the Snakes, which so often find their way in the lyrics of Soundgarden for some, because we as a tribute to Chris, because we desperately miss him. Obviously, the whole musical world does. We on the last show we did Black Hole Sun.
A cover. Yeah,
talks about Snakes a lot. So I think people back then were very disenchanted with the music business, and it was quite dreadful. And a lot of people were getting arrested for payola and so on and so forth. But that kind of stuff still goes on. Right now, it's music business is very similar to the political business, in the great words of Bernie Sanders, someone who I love dearly, the top 3% make all the money, and in the same way in music too. It's like that. And I hope one day that all my endeavors can find those David Bowies, those new David Bowies, those new Princes, because in the present system they can't possibly exist, because this people aren't buying music the way they did before. People will always feel entitled, and as wonderful as their resolves may seem to be with regards to having respect for other people's livelihoods, humans still for some reason value something that's free over something they paid for. I mean, my granddad is a perfect example. He worked hard, he got himself a nice motor, and he's got in his garage, and he's once a week he's polishing it away. But somebody gives him something free, like he somehow wins something free of insignificant value.
A mug.
That is his prized possession. This is free. Well, it's different, it's free. Isn't it strange how people feel that? Because you feel fortunate, something's been given you fortunate, and that's what ideas are like.
And maybe the internet's done that. Maybe because the internet's created this great landscape of freemiums, where you get to just subscribe to this, and you get to download that, and need not worry, pay for this yet, and maybe that's what it's got to do with. Maybe the technology.
But that's where the ideas have to come from, you see, because you have to figure out a way. If you still want to make a living in music, how do you do it? How do I put this together? Which is a whole other idea I have, saving music, which every musician should try to think of. That just goes into another direction, and it would take another half an hour for me to explain what I've got to do to save music. But necessity is the mother of invention, and that's what is your necessity? How, and then you figure that out, and then you try to invent a way to obtain that. And as long as you realize throughout this whole entire world, there's no flags, there's no religion, there's no races, there's just people. And there's only one of anybody. If you want to say Scottish people are tight, English people are whatever the hell people say we are, or like you can't do that anymore. You just can't, because it's just not logical. There is only one of anybody. And if you can embrace that and have other people embrace that, then I feel your ideas will always fall on willing ears.
So what do you feel is important for musicians or creative minds of today? What must they remain cognizant to? What should they remain very sensitive to, given the current landscape we now operate in? Because if Platinum Blonde were to have launched today, I'm sure the game would have been very different on how you played it and how you...
Would have been like a bazillion times even bigger, probably.
Because of the availability.
Just availability to the international world and how we were connected. Mm-hmm. Very different. It's hard not to get discouraged. There's so much now. We've created a society where you type in any obscure possible object or invention and you'll always find it. You'll find it and you'll find more than one of there. How do you choose? The only way you can fashion your way through that forest is to become that light. So when the darkness falls on the forest, you're still going, and you're still the one who makes it out of that forest. And that's a hard thing to do. It's because that takes innovation. It's all about innovation. If you're a little shop setting up right next door to Walmart, do you sell what Walmart has, or do you become a specialist of some kind that deals with... You don't compete, you just be yourself, you just find your own niche market, right? And I mean, even when we started our music, I don't think it was something that was instantly acceptable for all genres, people who like all genres of music or all lifestyles. I don't think we were like good for everybody. I don't think anybody is. But when you're inventive, you find other people who like that, and it's easy to get to them back then. Especially what was even though we didn't have internet, at least most people watch the same television programs. That's right. Most people, especially in England, you had three stations. One band got played on Top of the Pops or later with Jules Holland. Any of those shows, and bang, they're instantly there because everybody watched it.
Right.
Now nobody watches it. You've got everyone's got something on YouTube. How do you drive traffic to it? It's quite difficult.
It's quite different.
It's different and difficult. But when you strike a note with someone, even if it's just one person, to me that's a success.
So that brings me to near the end, which is a number of questions, and I'll start with the first of just only a handful. What would you say is Mark Holmes' calling now? What's his purpose? What is the job you have got to do with the time that you've got left on this earth?
I want to save music. I want to save music for the independent artist. I want the independent artist to realize that they can make a living out of making music. If we keep music the way it is right now, you're not going to see another Prince, you're not going to see another David Bowie, because they can't possibly exist when all the airplay, all the money is going to those top 3%, because that's all that's happening. Something has to happen. That was happening in the 70s with disco, and the Sex Pistols came along. And then from that, new wave came along, right? And then all of a sudden we hit a lull with that, and Britpop came along and grunge came along at the same time. Different, almost the same. And they took over the 90s. And then the 2000s get here, and all of a sudden electronic music is introduced into rock music. And then I started this thing with Masterclass and some guys from my friend from Crystal Castles, and we got a little DJ consortium together, and we started mixing indie bands into electronic music, and of course with Steve Aoki and everyone else, that just took off like crazy. That was a massive invention. But it's just about being innovative. It's finding another way in. So you can't get to radio the regular way, so you just got to find another way in. There's always a door open somewhere. Don't give up. Look for that door. It's a back door. It's unsecured. There's nobody there looking for a pass. Go the fuck in. Get in there, mate.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What right now keeps you up at night?
What keeps you up at night?
What haunts you? What's
other than Donald Trump? He doesn't. I think he entertains me more than haunts me. I'm a little bit upset that Scalacci fellow only had 1 or 2
days.
Press, yeah, because he was very funny. But that's not a job where you're supposed to be funny.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at that in the wrong. What keeps me up?
What's gnawing at you? What is it that you'd love to get accomplished, get done relatively fast, if you had all the horsepower and bandwidth available to you to get it done?
I think I think about a lot about pharmaceuticals, and I think about the medical industry, and I think about the amount of poisons get. I've lost my sister through cancer, lung cancer, and my mum has leukemia, and I think about the meds that patients are given, and so many times they're taking poison for poison, you know, against the poison that's in them. And you've got wonderful drugs, not drugs, I should call them medicines like marijuana available, that actually do good and can kill. I mean, my sister was taking morphine, and you know, because of the pain and everything, and that's what they prescribed back then. It's the same thing that stops the pain steals your life. It just does. What takes the sting can take the soul. Sometimes it's pain that makes us whole. Right? You want people. I want people. The propaganda that's out there with the drug companies and how they rule so much, and the people that have to suffer as a result. I just want to make real medicine for people that doesn't kill them, makes them better, and doesn't cost them the whole life to get. You know, I'm not living in America right now, but I cry for them. I see what's going on, and things like that keep me away. I find that people can live longer now. It's just what you do with your life that takes away those years.
Right.
So he said, well, a few years of partying, I'm going to be a bit brutal to my liver for at least 10 years. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, or 4 years off your life. I'm going to now not sleep properly because I've got to work at this job and study for your university. So 1, 2, 3, 6 years off your life. It's basically that. So you've got a deck of 120. We should have on everything you do. That's, you know, you've got to enjoy your life. You've got to have fun. You've got to eat what you like. You know, but if you're eating like big massive cakes every day and thinking, yeah, the world's great, and drinking your sweet tin of Coke, 2 or 3 tins of Coke a day and stuff, yeah, that's off your life. That's a lot. You're losing a lot of cards there. The idea is to keep all the cards if you can. Or you can also get those cards back. If you then take yourself into a gym and work the shit out of yourself, get some of them cards back. Because it's just life. If anybody says to you, any religious organization, science, doesn't matter, they know what happens after all of this. They're lying, because we don't. No one knows. To say you know is an out and out lie. I know. I'm not agnostic. To me, humans should be about reason, science. That's what the world should be about. For those who choose to believe in magical things as well, and that helps them through the day, well, that's great. I mean, are you happy? Are you good to people? Or if you use it for evil, like sometimes it happens, obviously not. I don't think anybody condones such activity. But the thing is, life is way more precious than I think it ever was. And the world is coming together in this beautiful mosaic of all these different humans mixing together, and that's the wonderful thing. I'd hate to be in a place where, oh, there's just you know, one type of what do you call it, race or person. There's no flags, there's no religion, just people. It's just us, right? So that's what keeps me up all night. Just thinking of things in our world, not just a tsunami wiping across innocent people. Everyone's innocent. Everyone's guilty.
100%.
Right, we're all innocent, we're all guilty, but what keeps me up at night is the injustice of the masses paying for that top 3% to enjoy their lives. Absolutely. The masses end up paying for that, and I don't want. I know economics. Why can't Republicans simply see? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not all Republicans like this. Ultra conservatives see that if the middle class has money to spend, they'll actually make more money. Instead of trying to gut a middle class so they can simply control the poor. That's what keeps me up, things like that. But then again, those are political things. All I can do is what I can do, and hopefully find a way of getting more amiable medicines to people, and especially people who can't afford it. And that's one of my main goals.
Well, I have a funny feeling among many that we haven't heard the last of you in the world of medicine, healing, and getting some of those life cards back. Yeah. I believe that we haven't heard the last of you when it comes to performing.
We haven't, because a lot of that is in the works already.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I don't think we've heard the last of you in the world of music, producing it, writing.
That is always forefront. I'm pretty much finished my solo record, and we're going to do a Platinum Blonde single, because just a one-off single, and before we do an album, because that is that the whole band has to be together for stuff like that, and sometimes that's not easy. When I write all the songs generally, and I play all the instruments as well, but it's nice to have other people's input onto the songs, and especially when it's a band thing, you want them to feel good about their own bits and pieces, right? Solo thing, I don't have to make it sound. I don't have to write guitar parts that sound like Platinum Blonde or drum bits that sound like Platinum Blonde. I can sort of do whatever I want, right? Because there's no specific viewpoint from where I'm supposed to start, or where I'm or any parameters of where I'm supposed to stay within.
No, you bet, you bet. Rapid fire and in closing, favorite book.
Favorite book. Well, it'd have to be the one I've just read, Essentialism. But it's not real. It's not a fictional book. It's
okay. That's okay. Favorite movie.
Oh my God, that's about 20 favorite movies. It's favorite film. Oh my God, Jesus.
That's why we call it rapid fire.
Being There.
Being There. Okay. You're on a deserted island and you can only have one album and you cannot have it be your own. Which album would you be able to have that you can play and only play for the rest of your time on that island?
I choose nothing. I choose to just sing to myself.
Favorite drink?
Water.
And your favorite word?
Favorite word.
I think I heard one. I'm not sure if I heard you say it.
Favorite word.
One word. It'll be your motto. It'll be your plaque. It'd be the one thing that we would always remember, likely you for. I have one for you, but I can't say it.
What would you say it was, B?
When I think of platinum, I only think of you. And so, of course, it's the mineral, it's the value, it's a precious good. It also is the benchmark of music. I
think my favorite word would probably be a verve, though. I think. In fact, I'll say my favorite word is verve.
Verve. Wonderful. Mark, I'm proud to call myself a fan. I'm very, very grateful to call myself a friend. But more importantly, I'm just really grateful for your time. So thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thanks, buddy.